What China just did to the USA and Singapore shocks the whole world. A $7.2 billion investment initiative has been unveiled by China. The goal of this project is to construct Huang Jing Port, the biggest port in the world, in collaboration with Malaysia. But the US and Singapore are concerned about the port proposal. In today's video, we will be discussing how China's $7,200 million investment in Malaysia's SuperPort scared the US and Singapore. China now has more than 120 nations and regions as its biggest trading partners. They include the Arab world, the US, Brazil, Japan, India, and other nations. China purchases ports from other nations or constructs new ones to facilitate trade. China has now disclosed a $7.2 billion investment plan. With Malaysia, this project aims to jointly construct Huang Jing Port, which will be the largest port in the world. But Singapore and the US are concerned about the port project. How significant is the construction of this superport for China and Malaysia? What impact will it have on the US and Singapore? The Strait is the most significant channel for trade between nations in the growth of global trade. The Malay Peninsula and the island of Sumatra are separated by the Strait of Malacca. One of the most crucial core straits in the world today, it connects the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean. The annual economic output worth exceeds tens of billions of dollars and numerous freighters pass by here every day. Now the Strait of Malacca has not only become one of the main routes of global trade, but also the maritime lifeline for those countries with large import and export volumes, such as Japan, China, South Korea, and other countries. Now that China is the fastest growing country in the world's trade, it is natural to give priority to the issue of the port area. Malaysia is a key hub in the ASEAN region and a key participant in China's Belt and Road Initiative from the standpoint of the development of the Maritime Silk Road. The economy and trade of China and Malaysia will both benefit tremendously from cooperation in the construction of a new port. Even in the future, it might take over from Singapore's current port's significant role. China and Malaysia have established collaboration many years prior. The Huang Jing Port project, a deep water supply port, will be built jointly by the two nations. The 1,366-acre Huang Jing Port in Malaysia is made up of 3 artificial islands and 1 natural island. A total of $14.5 billion was invested in the project overall, of which $7.2 billion came from China. Two nations have plans that call for the deep water port to be finished in 2019, and the total development of Huang Jing Port to be finished in 2025. The largest port in the entire Strait of Malacca after 2025 will be Huang Jing Port. A throughput of hundreds of millions of tons will be possible at Huang Jing Port in the future. It is projected that the Huang Jing Port deepwater supply terminal has a throughput that is inferior to that of all of American ports combined. What is surprising, however, is that China has terminated its partnership with Malaysia midway through a project as significant as a port that has not yet been completed. So, what precisely occurred? The sudden cancellation of the Huang Jing Port project, a joint venture between China and Malaysia, was actually primarily brought about by 2 factors. At that time, 4 projects involving Chinese investment with a combined value of more than $22 billion were mysteriously cancelled by Malaysia's then Prime Minister, Mahathir, who was 97 at the time. This resulted in significant losses for China. As a result of these 4 projects breaching the contract, Malaysia informed China that the cooperation had been terminated as a last resort due to the project's excessive cost. Construction of Malaysia's Huang Jing Port project has China even more enraged. For up to 8 months, Malaysia has owed China money for a variety of construction-related expenses, amounting to up to 20 million ringgit in total. A significant number of Chinese workers were also let go without being compensated. In retaliation, China has formally announced the suspension of the Huang Jing Port building project in Malaysia. Malaysia is required by the project agreement to pay China a sizable $400 million liquidated damage. Yet, they breached their word and refused to compensate China for liquidated losses. The Huang Jing Port breaks in collaboration resulted in significant losses for Malaysia and China alike. The Huang Jing Port project, however, experiences a new turning point in 2022. So what is happening here? Malaysia has had ongoing effects from numerous variables in recent years, and as the 3rd largest economy in ASEAN, Malaysia's economy has lost its development impetus. In order to stimulate local economic growth, Malaysia is also conscious of the significance of China and Huang Jing Port and hopes to resume cooperation projects with China. After being put on hold for almost a year, the Huang Jing Port project has now resumed. By agreeing to a settlement, Malaysia permitted China to carry out the development of the Huang Jing Port project, which is expected to be finished by the end of 2026. But Singapore will be devastated by this news. Even Singapore attempted to reunite with the United States, which led to the failure of the Huang Jing Port project. So why is Singapore acting in this way? How will Singapore be impacted? The Port of Singapore is a crucial component of Singapore's economy. Singapore's port can grow to be the second largest cargo port in the world, in large part due to its strategic location in the Asia-Pacific region. However, Huang Jing Port is not in a favorable geographic location as Singapore Port. Nonetheless, the Huang Jing Port will turn into a huge artificial reclamation port if development proceeds as planned. The Huang Jing Port project will successfully take at least 1/4 of Singapore's port's straight share. China will also dock its foreign commerce ships at Malaysia's Huang Jing Port because it is the nation that undertook the development of the deep-water terminal known as Huang Jing Port. Singapore won't benefit from the trade strategy from China in this situation. They won't be able to challenge China, and neither will the United States. Thus, China's development as a trading nation will be better. The huge tree in the background of Singapore has actually always been the United States. Singapore is able to fully control the Strait of Malacca at all times precisely because of this backing. The growth of marine trade, which has a significant impact on China and other Asian nations, is controlled by Singapore through this port. Once the Huang Jing Port deep-water supply terminal is completed, China and other countries will shift the focus of trade to the Huang Jing Port. Then Singapore's income will be significantly decreased, and U.S. interest would continue to decline. Both Singapore and the United States are under a lot of strain because of this. China actually has one of the best trading records in the entire globe, so there must be numerous ports of cooperation. One of the longest-standing historical ties in the entire Asian continent is between China and Malaysia, which is probably what led to the development of the strong relationship the two countries share today. As reported by the government, the two countries' bilateral trade volume in 2021 was anticipated to reach over $176.8 billion, making China one of Malaysia's largest trading partners ever. The annual commerce alone makes up a sizable portion of Malaysia's nominal GDP, which is predicted to be over $439 billion. Furthermore, in 2021, the year Malaysia received its highest influx of foreign investments, expected to be worth nearly $69 billion. China is also one of the countries that Malaysia receives the most foreign direct investments from. With an investment of about $7 billion, China has overtaken Singapore and the Netherlands to become the third largest source in terms of total investment. More recent data, however, has demonstrated that China has consistently been a significant source of investments. For example, in 2020, when they were the largest source of investments, surpassing the next two combined, they paved the way for over $4 billion. The Malaysian Investment Development Authority has stated that these Chinese-led investments have created close to 50,000 job opportunities within Malaysia's borders. In the future, when the Huang Jing Port is completed, China will work with Malaysia to reach a new level in the international arena. So, what do you think will be the better advantages of China's investment in the construction of Huang Jing Port in the future? That's all. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel and ring the bell icon to get more videos.